So there is a famous quote, "It is good to have an end to journey toward, but it is the journey that matters in the end." And I can't agree to this more. Hello friends, as you know, we are on our road trip to 12 countries in Europe, and currently we are on our 6th country, Croatia. And after exploring Zagreb, which is the capital city of Croatia, we are now heading towards our next destination, Split. The distance between Zagreb and Split is around 400 kilometers, and it will take us around 4 hours to reach there. There are other services also, like the Flex bus and train services that connect Zagreb to Split. As we are driving through, we are surrounded by these beautiful mountains which are part of Dinaric Alps mountain range. As I mentioned before, Zagreb is the capital city of Croatia and Split is the second largest city of Croatia. But there are few key differences between the two cities. Zagreb, which is located in central Croatia and has more of Baroque style architecture found in Central Europe. Whereas on the other side, Split is in coastal Croatia and has light colored paver stones and buildings with a simple Mediterranean style. Life is centered along the seaside promenades and in the shadow of rugged limestone cliffs. Did you notice the number of tunnels we are driving through, and as we come out of each tunnel, the landscape changes? Isn't that amazing? These tunnels are used as a bridge by the bears and other animals to cross the highways. So we made a quick stop at this rest area which has a beautiful view of this bridge which is on River Krka meeting the Adriatic Sea. Did you know that in Croatia there is a town called Hum, which is world's smallest town and its population is only 17 people. As we are approaching Split, let me also give you a brief overview of this beautiful city, which is always buzzing and lively. Split has the right balance of tradition and modernity, the perfect place to see the Dalmatian life as it is really lived. So the word Split likely comes from a Latin word meaning palace, meaning Diocletian's palace. However, this is highly argued as well. Another theory believes that it comes from a flower, and these flowers are orchid-like flowers that grow all throughout the Dalmatian coast. While there were some Greek settlers here early on 3rd or 4th centuries, most people attribute the founding of Split to Emperor Diocletian with his lavish 984 square feet palace in 295 AD. It took 10 years to build the entire palace, and when you visit Split, you are walking through the walls of what would have been Emperor's retirement home. So who was Diocletian? Well, Diocletian was born in 245 CE in Salone and was emperor of the Roman Empire from 284 to 305 CE. His work in Roman Empire led to the foundation of what we know today as Byzantine Empire in the East. So we are now heading towards our meeting point where the walking tour to Diocletian's palace will start. So Diocletian's palace takes up much of the old town in Split, and after the fall of Rome, people transformed the palace and lived within the walls. One of the most impressive things about this part of Split is how Diocletian's palace was adapted over time. Not only that, Diocletian's palace is also a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it represents one of the best preserved examples of Roman architecture and yet doesn't feel like a museum. The dynamic city of Split has grown up around this ancient palace. So our walking tour starts with the Silver Gate, which is also known as the Eastern Gate and is one of the 4 principal Roman gates into the old town of Split. The gate faces east towards the Roman town of Pisia. We are now walking towards Riva Promenade, a waterfront walkway lined with palm trees. It's the most important social place in Split, almost like a city's living room. Diocletian Palace was built as a residence for the Roman Emperor Diocletian, and while it is referred to as palace because of its intended use as a retirement residence of Diocletian, about half of it was for Diocletian's personal use and the rest housed the military garrison. We will be entering the Diocletian Palace through the Bronze Gate, also known as the Southern Gate, which is the most unassuming and the smaller of the 4 principal Roman gates into the old town of Split. Built as part of Diocletian Palace, it was originally a sea gate from which the emperor entered the complex by boat. During the Middle Ages, the gate offered a direct exit to the sea and escape in the event of an attack on palace, and consequently became known as the Security Gate. Using the Bronze Gate, we enter into palace substructures, also known as cellars, designed to elevate emperor's apartment above sea level, create a passage to the sea and provide rooms for storage. Throughout the centuries, the basement served various purposes like shelter, storage, workshops, and mostly as waste dump yards. Taking the stairs from the substructures, we enter into the main square of palace, also known as Peristyle, and is always jam-packed with tourists like us. From there, you can look up to Diocletian's palace and imagine the retired emperor standing in view of the people from the main entrance. It also gave access to Diocletian's mausoleum on the east and to the 3 temples on the west, 2 of which are lost and the only one remaining is the Temple of Jupiter, but it's been converted into a baptistry. The most unique and the oldest structure in the palace is this Sphinx, which is made up of black granite, and it was brought from Egypt to honor the Emperor Diocletian. And I think there were around 13 of them, but this is the only one which has survived and which is fully intact. By the way, this Sphinx statue is around 3,600 years old. From the main square, we enter into Vestibule, which is a circular structure and has its opening looking up to the heavens. It's actually rectangular from outside but circular from inside. This was once the main entrance to the imperial residence, but now we mere mortals can just walk through it. Statues once filled the niche inside. You may also find some traditional clapper singers who perform a cappella. From Vestibule, we are now entering into Emperor's apartment area with his living room and all the other different rooms. So most of the Diocletian Palace you can visit for free and there are no tickets associated. But if you really want to get deeper into it and look at different statues and artifacts which were pulled out of the palace, then you will have to buy some tickets to the museums. Between the eastern and western gates, there is a straight road which separated the imperial residence on the southern side with its staterooms and temples from the northern side, once used by soldiers and servants. And this octagonal structure is one of the best preserved ancient Roman buildings still standing today. This is a cathedral, and Diocletian had intended this structure as his mausoleum, where he would rest forever in eternal glory. And it's a well-known fact that Diocletian hated Christians and persecuted them. But you know what? They definitely got the last laugh because they threw his body out of his mausoleum. By the way, it has never been found since. And then they repurposed the building as a cathedral in 7th century in honor of Saint Dominius. Saint Dominius was a bishop of Ceylon whom Diocletian had beheaded. A much later addition, a tall bell tower was constructed between the 13th and 16th century and reconstructed in 1908 after it collapsed. We are now back to the Peristyle, which is the main square of the palace, and from here we'll head towards the north where we'll see the Golden Gate, or the main royal entrance to the palace. This is the Golden Gate, which is the main entrance to Diocletian Palace, and it is the largest and most decorated of all 4 palace entrances. The Golden Gate was flanked by 2 octagonal towers for defense, and there were 2 gates, the outside gate and the inside gate, and the inside gate was used for creating a gatehouse defense structure where enemies could get trapped in a small space. The main decorations on the gate were the statues of Roman gods or the emperors. The center rectangle between the upper 2 niches was probably a flat relief of Rome's most important deity, Jupiter. In front of the Golden Gate is one of Split's most recognizable monuments, the large 8-meter tall statue of Croatian bishop Gregor Ninski is considered one of the finest works of Croatia. The bishop Gregory, who lived in the 10th century, was one of the earliest advocates for the use of the local Croatian language in the church. The most famous part of the statue is bishop's big toe, and it is considered good luck to rub it. We came out of the palace from the Golden Gate, and now we are walking in parallel to the western walls of the palace. So there is a Game of Thrones museum and other stores in Split, and that is for the obvious reasons. The HBO series was filmed in Croatia, in Split and Dubrovnik was the main film location for this series. So we are now at People's Square. So when the Roman rule was over, people from the local area began moving within the walls of Palace Complex, seeking protection, and soon the town was growing so fast. Citizens needed a much bigger gathering place than Peristyle, and that is how People's Square emerged. It's the main meeting point in the city since the 14th century, and its significance is easy to notice to this date. As per our guide, this square is built on top of cemetery, and it used to have prostitute houses here, which are now converted into government buildings. We are now passing Iron Gate on our left, which is one of the 4 main entrances to the Diocletian Palace. So this is Radish Brothers Square, also known as the Fruit Square, and briefly when Split was under the Venice rule, this particular tower in the square was used by the soldiers to keep a watch on people and their conversations. There are around 220 buildings within the palace boundaries and home to about 3,000 people. The narrow streets hide the passageways and the courtyards, some deserted, some not, others thumping with music from bars and the cafes, while residents hang out there washing overhead, kids kick the footballs against the ancient walls, and people sit in their windows watching the action below. Let me also share some interesting facts about Croatia. So Croatia invented the necktie. In the 17th century, Croatian soldiers wore silk scarves called cravats, which eventually evolved into the modern necktie. While here, we also tasted some Croatian snacks and had some yummy gelato. So we had a great time exploring the old town of Split and the palace, and it literally took us to the medieval times. And now we are ready to have some dinner, and thank you all for watching my video, and I'll see you in my next vlog. Thank you. Bye-bye.